Before our first Alaskan cruise, we thought we were prepared. We'd done the research, booked the excursions, and packed for the unpredictable weather. But from canceled tours to packed observation lounges, we quickly realized we had underestimated just how different Alaska would be. But despite the hiccups, it became one of our most unforgettable trips and taught us lessons we will never forget. Today, I'm sharing the insider tips and tricks we've learned to help you avoid our mistakes and make your Alaskan cruise the adventure of a lifetime. From choosing the right cruise line to finding the perfect itinerary, trust me, you do not want to miss this. Hey y'all, I'm Evan with Family at Sea, where we help make every cruise unforgettable. In today's video, we're diving into the must-know tips and tricks to help you plan the ultimate Alaskan cruise. We'll cover how to choose the cruise line that fits your travel style and priorities, the secrets to picking an itinerary that will give you the best of Alaska, and the one decision that can help make the difference between a good trip and an unforgettable adventure. So stick around as we dive into everything you need to know to plan the perfect Alaskan cruise. By the end of this video, you'll be ready to turn your dream cruise into reality. So if you're ready, I am. Let's go. Before we dive in, a quick note. If you've watched my previous video on Alaskan cruises, you may recognize a few of the tips that I share in this video, but don't worry, this one is packed with plenty of new insights and in-depth information that I've learned since then. So stick around, there's a lot here to help you plan the trip of a lifetime. And if you have any tips or tricks you think I should include in a future video to help your fellow cruisers, let me know in the comments below because I'd love to hear from you. So with that out of the way, let's kick things off by talking about one of the most important decisions you'll make for your Alaskan cruise, your budget.
No more money in the budget. What?
An Alaskan cruise is the trip of a lifetime, but if you're not careful, it can also become the trip that wipes out your savings. Let's be honest, you want to enjoy Alaska, but also still have money left over for your next cruise too. Here's the reality. Alaska is expensive, like really expensive. Their tourist season only lasts about 5 to 6 months, so businesses have to make enough in that short time to get them through the entire year. On top of that, you're visiting islands where almost everything has to be imported. And I kept hearing the same joke over and over from the locals during our trip. There are only 3 ways to get places like Juneau and Ketchikan: by plane, by boat, and do you know the third? To be born there. It's funny because it's true. These are islands with no roads leading in or leading out. So yeah, things like food or souvenirs can cost double what you'd expect. Let's just say, I want to get a bit of a workout in Alaska. Now let's talk about the trade-offs. When it comes to budgeting for an Alaskan cruise, you'll need to figure out your priorities. One big decision you might face is, do you splurge for a balcony cabin or keep that money for excursions, souvenirs, or other experiences? Here's my take. If you can afford it, go for the balcony. On an Alaskan cruise, you'll actually use it. Imagine stepping out of your room to watch humpback whales breach or glaciers calve, all from your private space. While you might find cozy spots inside the ship, you won't hear the sounds of Alaska from there. And trust me, hearing the crack of glaciers or the splash of a whale breaching is part of the magic. Now, I know you're thinking, Evan, I don't need a balcony. I'll just hang out in the observation lounge. I get it, but good luck finding a great seat without camping out overnight. Seriously, on our Alaskan cruise on board the Norwegian Encore, we heard about people getting to the observation lounge at midnight, getting kicked out when the crew needed to set up, and coming back at 1 a.m. for Glacier Bay Day. Unless you're willing to make friends with a sleeping bag, that might not be the best plan. That said, not everyone has the budget for a balcony, and that's okay. The key is deciding where you want to allocate your money. Maybe you'd rather spend it on epic excursions like dog sledding on a glacier, or save some cash for souvenirs you'll actually cherish. Just make sure it's not another coffee mug you'll regret later. Or do. I'm not here to judge your mug collection. And one last tip, book during wave season. That's January through March, and it's when cruise lines typically offer their best deals and perks during this time. So you can lock in a lower price before costs climb even higher. Ultimately, it's about making decisions that work for you and your budget. Alaska is an incredible experience, and no matter how you spend your money, you'll walk away with memories to last a lifetime, and maybe a mug or two. Now that we've covered budgeting, let's talk timing. Choosing the right time of year for your Alaskan cruise can make a huge difference in your experience, from the weather you'll encounter to the wildlife you'll see. So let's break it down. Timing your Alaskan cruise is a big deal. The season runs from late April to early October, but the time of year you choose can totally change your experience. From the weather you'll face to what you'll actually see, and yes, even how many people you'll be bumping into at the souvenir shops. Let's start with the shoulder seasons, April to May and September to October. These months are perfect if you're looking to dodge the crowds and save a little money. Early in the season, you'll find snow still blanketing the mountains and wildlife just waking up. Picture bears rubbing the sleep out of their eyes. In the late season, you'll see the stunning colors of fall and maybe even a chance to spot the northern lights. If you're considering a cruise during the shoulder seasons, keep in mind that many shops and tours in Alaska only operate May 15th to September 15th. If you go outside that time frame, you may find fewer options and a lot of closed for the season signs. Peak season, which is June, July, and August, are when most people head to Alaska, and for good reason. The weather is at its best. Well, best by Alaskan standards. Highs can reach into the 70s, and the long daylight hours give you plenty of time to explore. One thing to keep in mind is during these months, Alaska might not match the snowy picture you have in your head. Most of the snow will have melted by then, except on the glaciers or the highest mountain peaks. So if you've got this postcard image of snow everywhere, just know it's more of a summer vibe during peak season. Another thing you'll want to be ready for during peak season: the mosquitoes. Oh, the mosquitoes. These things are massive.
I once caught a fish this big.
I swear, you could throw a saddle on one and ride it to your next excursion. Bring plenty of bug spray and maybe even a fly swatter if you're feeling extra ambitious. One more thing I'll mention here: if you're considering booking an Alaskan cruise and watching this during wave season, again that's January to March, don't wait. This is when cruise lines roll out their best deals, offering everything from free upgrades to onboard credits. It's like Black Friday for cruises, but instead of a TV, you're locking in views of glaciers and wildlife. With cruises sailing fuller than ever, you'll rarely see prices drop, so once you've made the decision to do an Alaskan cruise, book immediately. No matter when you cruise, Alaska is unforgettable. Whether you're dreaming of spring snow caps, summer wildlife, or fall colors, the best time to go is whenever works best for you and your budget. Now that you've figured out the best time to go, it's time to tackle the next big decision. Where do you want to go, and how do you get the most out of your itinerary? This is where the real adventure begins, so let's dive in. Picking the right itinerary for your Alaskan cruise is a big deal. It's not just about which ports you visit, it's about the entire experience, from the views outside your cabin to the vibe in each destination. And with so many options, it can feel a little overwhelming. But don't worry, I'm here to help you figure it out. Let's start with round trip cruises, which are the most common option. These sail out of either Seattle or Vancouver, and while both are great, they have some key differences. If you're parting from Seattle, most itineraries take the outside passage, meaning you'll only have land or wildlife views on one side of the ship during that section. The waters can also be rougher compared to the interior package. Another thing you'll want to be aware of is that Seattle round trips are required by US maritime law to stop in at least one foreign country if they're not US flagged ships. So, enter Victoria, Canada. It's a beautiful city, but on many cruises, it feels more like a formality than a true destination. In fact, on our sailing on the Norwegian Encore, we were there for less than 4 hours. By the time you factor in getting to downtown and back, there's not much time to do anything meaningful. A lot of people don't even bother getting off the ship. Now, Vancouver round trips are a bit different since they depart out of Canada. They usually sail through the inside passage, which means calmer waters and stunning views on both sides of the ship. If you're the kind of person who likes to sip coffee out of your new mug on your balcony while pretending you're narrating a National Geographic special, this is your route. Plus, the inside passage is prime territory for spotting whales, seals, and bald eagles. One major factor to consider on either of these itineraries is whether they include Glacier Bay National Park. And if you're sitting there wondering, why is Glacier Bay such a big deal? Well, let me tell you, it's not just one glacier, it's an entire bay filled with them. You're surrounded by massive ice fields, and it feels like stepping into a completely different world. And then there's the sound. The thunderous crack of ice calving into the water is something you'll never forget. Plus, park rangers come on board to narrate the entire experience and point out wildlife along the way, which honestly adds a whole different layer of magic to the experience. If Glacier Bay isn't on the itinerary, you might visit places like Hubbard Glacier or Tracy Arm Fjord instead. And while they're beautiful in their own right, Glacier Bay is truly in a league of its own. If you're looking for a bit more adventure, one-way itineraries travel between Vancouver or Seattle and Anchorage, often stopping in places like Sitka, Whittier, or Seward, and give you a chance to explore more of Alaska's northern regions. Now you might be wondering, what do I get on a one-way cruise that I wouldn't see on a round trip? Well, for starters, you'll visit places like College Fjord and Hubbard Glacier, which are absolutely stunning. The Gulf of Alaska is also a part of these journeys, and it offers wild, untamed landscapes that make you feel like you've reached the edge of the world. Yes, you'll need separate flights into one city and out of another, but the payoff is worth it for the extra access to Alaska's rugged beauty. If you really want to dive deep into Alaska, consider a land and sea itinerary. These pair a one-way cruise with a guided land tour, letting you explore iconic spots like Denali National Park, the Kenai Peninsula, and Fairbanks. Imagine riding a glass-domed train through the wilderness, spotting bears and moose, or standing in awe at the base of North America's tallest peak. Holland America and Princess specialize in these itineraries, offering seamless transitions between the cruise and land portions of the trip. Now, if you're looking for a more intimate and exclusive way to see Alaska, luxury and expedition cruises might just be what you're after. These are for the folks who want to get off the beaten path and don't mind spending a bit more to do it. Smaller ships means fewer crowds and access to places larger ships can't go, like Wrangell or Petersburg. You might find yourself kayaking through glacial waters, hiking remote trails, or even spending a night in Glacier Bay. The onboard experience is more intimate too, with personalized service and a focus on education and adventure. At the end of the day though, the right itinerary depends on what you're looking for. Want simplicity and convenience? Go for a round trip. Want to explore remote corners of Alaska? Try a one-way or land and sea itinerary. And if you're ready to splurge, a luxury or expedition cruise will take your trip to the next level. And speaking of decisions, the next one you'll need to make is which cruise line is the perfect fit for your trip. From family-friendly options to adults-only luxury, every cruise line offers something different. So let's figure out which one is right for you. Choosing the right cruise line for your Alaskan adventure isn't just about the itinerary. It's about the experience you want on board and how well the cruise fits the destination. And trust me, not all ships are created equal, especially when it comes to Alaska. If you're traveling with kids or teens like we do, lines like Norwegian, Royal Caribbean, Carnival, or Disney might seem like obvious choices. These ships come packed with flashy attractions like water slides, rope courses, and even go-karts. But something you'll want to consider, those attractions aren't as appealing on an Alaskan itinerary because they're designed for warm weather. On our cruise aboard the Norwegian Encore, the outdoor promenade and other key spaces were mostly unused due to the colder climate. So everyone was packed inside without indoor attractions like a solarium pool to disperse the crowds. It often felt like we were moving from one long line to another, especially on sea days. So if you're considering a family-friendly line, ask yourself one question. Do I really need a go-kart track, or would I rather have more space to breathe? And while Norwegian and Royal Caribbean are great options for families, don't rule out Holland America or Princess just because they're more traditional. In Alaska, these lines offer incredible experiences for families with onboard naturalists, unique activities, and itineraries that truly connect you with the destination. Speaking of Holland America and Princess, these are top choices for a well-rounded Alaskan cruise. These lines have been cruising Alaska for decades, and they really know their stuff. On board, you'll find enriching experiences like talks from naturalists, locally inspired cuisine, and excellent scenic cruising options. These ships are designed from the ground up with Alaska in mind, with plenty of indoor spaces to enjoy the views. Celebrity Cruises is another great option here if you're looking for a slightly more modern vibe. If Glacier Bay is on your must-see list, and honestly it should be, you'll need to choose your cruise line carefully. We talked about why Glacier Bay is so special in the itinerary section, so let's focus on who can get you here. The big three with permits are Holland America, Princess, and Norwegian, but smaller lines like Cunard and Uncruise also have access. If experiencing Glacier Bay is a priority for you, these are the lines to look at. New to the Alaskan cruise market for 2026 are MSC and Virgin Voyages. MSC is known for its budget-friendly fares, making it a great option if you're looking to save. Virgin Voyages, on the other hand, is adults only and focuses on trendy dining, unique entertainment, and a no-kids atmosphere. But there's a trade-off for these new lines. Both lines are still finding their footing in Alaska, and that means they don't get prime dock locations, which means you're going to be taking a lot more tenders to shore or shuttles to town. Now, if you're wondering, but Evan, how bad can tendering really be? You have to ask yourself, do you really want to lose 30 plus minutes of your already limited port time waiting in long lines to get on a crowded boat in sometimes rough seas? And don't forget, you're going to have to do that all over again to get back. So if you're thinking, that sounds like a hassle, well, you're not wrong. If you're ready to splurge, luxury and expedition cruises are two incredible but very different ways to see Alaska. Luxury cruises like those with Silver Sea, Regent Seven Seas, or Viking are all about pampering. On these, you're going to get spacious suites, gourmet dining, and personalized service. Think sipping champagne or watching glaciers from your private balcony. It's all about comfort and elegance. On the other hand, expedition cruises like Uncruise and Lindblad Expeditions are for the adventurers. These smaller ships focus on immersive, hands-on experiences, whether you're hiking remote trails, spotting wildlife with expert guides, or kayaking up close to the glaciers. The vibe here is less about luxury and more about diving head first into nature. Both are amazing options. It just depends on whether you want to be pampered or put on a life jacket. So which cruise line is right for you? At the end of the day, it all comes down to what matters most to you. Traveling with kids, Norwegian, Royal Caribbean, or Disney could be great, but don't overlook Holland America or Princess for the expertise and custom programming for kids in Alaska. Want to see Glacier Bay? Stick with the lines that have access. And if you're ready to splurge, luxury and expedition cruises will take your adventure to the next level. If you're still not sure, let me know in the comments below. I love helping people like you figure this stuff out. Speaking of decisions, the next one you'll need to make is where you'll actually sleep. Your cabin is not just a room, it's your home for the week. And the right choice can make all the difference. So let's talk about how to pick the perfect one. Now that you've picked out the perfect itinerary and the perfect ship, it's time to figure out where you'll sleep, because odds are you may be spending a good chunk of time there. Choosing the right cabin on an Alaskan cruise isn't just about having a comfy space to crash. It can actually change how you experience the whole trip. No pressure, right? Let's break it down. You've got your interior cabins, ocean view cabins, balcony cabins, and then even suites if you're feeling especially fancy. An interior cabin is the most budget-friendly option, and hey, it's great if you're just using it to sleep. But let's be honest, in Alaska, you're surrounded by views that could easily make the cover of National Geographic. Do you really want to miss out because your view is the inside of a dark closet? Ocean view cabins give you a little window, which is nice until it starts to feel like you're watching the scenery through a tiny porthole on a submarine. Sure, it's better than nothing, but it's not quite the full picture. And let's talk about the FOMO, or for the adults in the room, the fear of missing out.
You don't want to get FOMO.
You know that nagging feeling when you scroll social media and you realize everyone else is having more fun than you? Yeah, that's FOMO. And trust me, staring out a small window while knowing there's a whole world outside your frame, it's the cruise version of that. And then there's the balcony cabin. If it's within your budget, this is where I'd say go for it. On an Alaskan cruise, a balcony is more than just a nice upgrade. It's your personal front row seat to nature's greatest show. Imagine sipping coffee in your pajamas and your new coffee mug while watching a glacier calve or whales breaching right from your room. No crowds, no early wake-ups, and you can even hear the sounds of nature, like the crack of ice or the splash of a breaching whale. That said, if a balcony doesn't fit within your budget, don't sweat it. You'll get to see plenty from other parts of the ship. But if it does, splurge, you won't regret it. Another thing you'll want to consider is your cabin location. If seasickness has ever been a concern for you, stick to a midship cabin on a lower deck. That means there in the middle of the ship is as low as you can get, as that's where you'll find the smoothest ride. But that said, if you're up for a little adventure, an aft cabin might be worth considering. Why? The views. You'll have incredible sweeping vistas of where you've just sailed, like the world's most dramatic screensaver. Just don't be surprised if you find yourself mesmerized by the ship's wake, like a cat staring ahead a laser pointer. If you're still unsure of which type of room to book, just ask yourself this: do I want to wake up the whales or walls? Trust me, that'll make your decision a whole lot easier. And while your cabin is where you'll recharge, the real magic of an Alaskan cruise happens off the ship. From once-in-a-lifetime adventures to hidden gems, choosing the right excursions can take your trip to the next level. So let's talk about how to make the most of your time in port. Excursions are where the magic of an Alaskan cruise truly happens. Whether you're soaring over glaciers, wandering historic streets, or taking on adrenaline-pumping adventures, your time off the ship is what makes this trip unforgettable. But with so many options, it can feel a bit overwhelming. So let's go port by port and break it down. Up first is the capital of Alaska and popular port location, Juneau. This city delivers some of the most iconic Alaskan experiences. If you're looking to splurge, a helicopter ride to a glacier combined with dog sledding is about as epic as it gets. Imagine flying over massive ice fields, landing on a glacier, and hopping on a sled for a thrilling ride with a team of huskies. It's the kind of adventure you'll be talking about for years. If that's not in the cards, don't worry. There are plenty of ways to soak in Juneau's beauty without breaking the bank. Visiting Mendenhall Glacier Park is a must. You can hike the Nugget Falls, snap some epic photos, and still have time to explore downtown Juneau. Trust me, you do not want to skip downtown. Stop by Tracy's King Crab Shack for lunch, browse the local shops, or visit the historic Red Dog Saloon for a drink with some Alaskan charm. Next, we head to Skagway, a town straight out of the Klondike Gold Rush. The White Pass and Yukon Route Railway is one of the most popular excursions here, and for good reason. This scenic train ride follows the historic Gold Rush Trail, winding through the mountains, gorges, and waterfalls. But if you want something more flexible, and let's be honest, less crowded, renting a car and driving the South Klondike Highway is a game changer. Not only can you stop at all the scenic viewpoints, but you'll also discover places the train skips, like the Yukon Suspension Bridge. And here's a pro tip for you. Grab a copy of Murray's Guide before you go. I'm going to put a link down in the description below where you can grab it for free online. It's a detailed, mile-by-mile breakdown of the highway's highlights, and it feels like having your own tour guide in the car, minus the cheesy jokes.
That was a cheesy one.
In Ketchikan, known as the salmon capital of the world, you've got some incredible options both on water and in town. For a splurge-worthy adventure, take a float plane tour to misty fjords. You'll soar over breathtaking fjords, waterfalls, and untouched wilderness, with many tours even landing on the water for an up-close experience. For something easier on the wallet, Ketchikan's downtown has a lot to offer. Walk along Creek Street, a historic boardwalk brimming with charm, or visit the Totem Heritage Center to dive into Alaska's native culture. And if you're in the mood for a little nature, the Rainbird Trail is a short, scenic hike that gives you fantastic views of the city. If you're lucky enough to visit Icy Strait Point, this one's a no-brainer. The world's longest zip line, over 5,000 feet long and reaching speeds of up to 60 miles per hour. It's the perfect mix of adrenaline and jaw-dropping views. It's not for everyone, but if you're a thrill seeker like we are, this is your moment. In Sitka, one of the highlights is the Fortress of the Bear, which is a sanctuary for rescued bears. It's an incredible opportunity to see these majestic animals up close while supporting a great cause. It's both educational and awe-inspiring, a win-win. And if your itinerary includes Anchorage as a start or endpoint, consider a fly-in bear watching tour. You'll take a small plane to a remote location where you can watch bears fish for salmon in their natural habitat. It's one of the most unforgettable ways to connect with Alaska's wildlife. Now about those backup plans, because Alaska's weather doesn't always play nice, excursions can get canceled at the last minute, so having a plan B is essential. If your helicopter ride in Juneau gets grounded, visit Mendenhall Glacier or explore downtown instead. If your float plane tour in Ketchikan doesn't take off, Creek Street and the Totem Heritage Center are excellent alternatives. And here's a little insider tip. Call the bureaus of tourism for each port before your trip. They're a gold mine of local knowledge and can help you find hidden gems or last-minute alternatives that you may not find on the internet. At the end of the day, Alaska's beauty will shine no matter what you do. Plan ahead, stay flexible, and get ready for the adventure of a lifetime. With your excursions planned, it's time to tackle some essential prep work to make sure your trip goes smoothly. From travel tips to smart planning hacks, I've got a very quick guide to help you get ready for Alaska. Planning your excursions is exciting, but don't forget about the basics, because a little prep work can go a long way in making your trip run smoothly. Now, I've got a full video that I'll link at the end with tons of tips for making the most of your Alaskan cruise, but let me share a few essentials to keep in mind. One of the biggest mistakes I see people make when planning their Alaskan cruise is thinking they'll be okay if they fly in the day of their cruise. And hey, they'll save a few bucks in the process. I know it's tempting, but weather delays and missed connections are way too risky. The last thing you want is to be stressed your entire flight wondering if you're going to make it there on time, or even worse, the potential to miss it. On our Alaskan cruise this past July, more than 100 people missed the first 2 days of the cruise when there was a major IT issue with the airlines that wreaked havoc across the industry. Instead, plan to arrive at least 2 days early. Not only does this give you some breathing room, it's also a great chance to be a tourist in the departure city, whether it's Seattle or Vancouver. And it also gives your body a chance to adjust to the new time zone so you don't start your cruise fighting jet lag. Here's another tip. Choose a hotel in the heart of the city you're staying in. I know, staying on the outskirts might seem like a great way to save money, but whatever you save on the hotel, you'll end up spending on Ubers getting to and from all the places you actually want to be. Plus, being in the middle of everything just makes the experience more fun and convenient. These small steps can make a big difference in how smoothly your trip goes. And they're easy to check off your list before you even leave home. With your travel plan sorted, you're well on your way to planning the perfect Alaskan cruise. The bad news? Once you're on board, there's a whole lot more you might not know that could make or break your entire experience. The good news, I've got you covered. In the video linked above, I'll share everything we wished we knew before our first Alaskan cruise so you can learn from our mistakes and then make the most of your adventure. As always, thank you for watching, and until next time, may your seas be smooth and your horizons wide. Bon voyage!